Yeah, hi there. These comments are for Medard. This is Michael. I'm the founder, owner, and the materials writer for the online course called the 7-Step System to Pass the TOEFL IBT. And you just sent me 2 emails on January 23rd and January 24th. So let's take a look at the first email. You say, I've got my test scores. My results are disappointing. They are as follows. Reading, 14. Listening, 9. Speaking, 18. And writing is 22. So you have a score of 63. So you say the most difficult sections are the reading and the listening, though I have completed all your listening exercises with 80%. And then I want to retake the test on February 15th in 3 weeks. So what do you advise me to succeed for the coming test, particularly in the sections where I'm not doing well? All right, good question. So with the listening, I would advise if you've completed all of the listening practice tests at my site, then I would use a TOEFL book and begin completing some of those practice tests in that TOEFL book. May I recommend? One that's pretty challenging is the Cambridge Preparation Course for the TOEFL test by Jolene and Robert Gear. There's a lot of skill building listening exercises in that book. It'll definitely really help you to improve some of the problems you might be having. Right now, in addition to that, at my website, I do have 2 different links in the listening part of my course. Let me go take a look at them right now, and I'll tell you which ones they are. And you can spend time, maybe about an hour a day between now and February 15th. You can spend time at these 2 lessons to continue to improve your overall listening proficiency. Alright, so if we go to the listening section of the course, make sure that you review lesson 1 on note-taking, so you have a good system of note-taking. Lesson number 3, National Public Radio. I think this is going to be very useful for you. And also lesson number 4, Randall's Cyber Listening Lab. So I think in addition to doing the practice exercises in a TOEFL book, the listening practice test, you can also focus on lesson 3 and lesson 4 of my online TOEFL course. And that should help you continue to improve. So in addition to that, make sure, Medard, that each day you're watching the news at night, maybe while you're eating dinner. So maybe the 5 or the 6 o'clock news. Watch movies, watch documentary and history type programs. All of this exposure is going to make it a little bit easier for you. So right now, the listening section of the test, there's probably the vocabulary is just too difficult for you right now, and they're speaking a little bit too quickly, so you're having trouble catching some of those ideas. But as you practice more in your listening, it will be a little easier. Okay, now the next thing, let's talk about reading, because you also want to improve your reading also. So there's really 5 basic things that you can work on to improve your overall reading proficiency, and it's very difficult to make improvements in reading. It takes time. So the first thing is develop a good vocabulary base. Make sure your vocabulary is strong, and I'd recommend in my vocabulary course something that you probably have already done, but if you haven't done it, I'll give you the idea right now. There's a lot of different quizzes and things in the listening, in the vocabulary part of my course, right? And you can retake those quizzes a lot. Now, there's also something else you can do. Lesson number 4, there is a vocabulary list of about 500 words A through E. What would be very helpful for you is to take the words from that list and put them all on note cards. Put the word on one side, put the definition and a sample sentence on the other. Do the same thing with lesson 5 and lesson 6. That means 1,500 note cards that you want to use. And then you review. You begin reviewing those note cards on a regular basis, even what you can do is you can start separating the note cards into stacks. Words that you know easily, you don't have trouble, and then you have the words you're having trouble remembering, and you can focus more on those words you're having more difficulty remembering. So you do need to continue to engage in a regular routine of studying your vocabulary. It's very, very important. Now, the next thing is, I talk a lot about this at my the reading part of my course, is you definitely need to continue to engage in what's called extensive reading for about 45 minutes each day. You want to be doing this for several months. So that's also very important. Now, as you're reading, you can read magazines, newspapers, and longer books, and you might consider keeping a notebook where you can write down some of the new words that you see and some of the new grammar structures that you're seeing. So that's going to be important. Now, the third thing is to continue to improve your overall reading speed. This is very, very important. If you can get on my speed reading test, here's the goal, Medard. If you can go to my speed reading test that's 300 words a minute, it's called Parrots, watch the video only one time for 1 minute, and then answer the questions. If you can get about 80% on those questions, that means you have a reading speed of about 300 words a minute, and that's very good for TOEFL. So if you haven't done that, continue to work on that reading speed, and even make a goal, try to get 350 words a minute. So faster readers have fewer distractions and better concentration. So in theory, if you can read faster, you should do better on the TOEFL part of the exam. Now, the next thing is, in the reading part of my course, specifically, you have lesson number 1.1, which talks about reading score improvement suggestions. You can check out that lesson if you haven't seen it. Lesson number 2, it's vocabulary, pronoun referent, and paraphrase question types. You can check that one out. Also, lesson 3, insert sentence detail, negative detail, and implied detail question types. Make sure you take a look at that. And then the last lesson is lesson number 4, infer rhetorical purpose, summary chart, and schematic table question types. So the purpose of lessons 2, 3, and 4 is to get you used to the kinds of questions that you will see during the TOEFL, and it gives you the strategies for answering them. So you want to make sure you check that out too. Now, the last thing that you want to do is get a hold of your TOEFL book again. If you have the Cambridge book, maybe the Longman book, or the Barron's, whatever, start doing some reading practice tests between now and February 15th. Now, as you do the reading practice test, when you're finished, you're not done. Obviously, correct your answers, but you want to do analysis. As you look at the questions you missed, ask yourself, what question type was that? For example, was it a vocabulary question? Was it a pronoun referent question? Was it a paraphrase question? Was it a detail question? Was it a negative detail? So identify what the question was, then you can go back to my website and review the strategies for answering that question, and then look at the question you missed and see what went wrong. So what strategies could you have used that you didn't use that might have helped you answer that question correctly? Right? So in conclusion to this particular video, I've gone over 2 basic things here. I've talked about some basic ideas on how you can improve your listening, and I gave you 2 specific websites and 2 lessons from my course. I also advised you to get a TOEFL book and begin completing listening practice tests there. And then finally, in the second part of the video here, I gave you some good comments on how you can improve your reading through 5 different steps. So step 1 is the vocabulary, step 2 is the extensive reading, step 3 is improving your reading speed, step 4 is becoming familiar with the TOEFL IBT reading question types and the strategies for answering them, and then step 5 is complete reading practice tests. Review them, especially analyzing the answers you missed. Alright, so anyway, good luck to you. Thank you for your emails, and have a great day.